What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we are back to talk about Lions training camp. Day number 12 is in the notepad for the Lions. I think it's day number 12. I'm not completely sure. Yesterday, not really getting to see practice threw me off. But regardless, day number 12 of Lions training camp is in the books. And we got some takeaways as the shots are starting to come along a little bit for Jared Goff. Some of these receivers are nasty. The kicker battle gets very interesting. And Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to battle with some players. Today it was Jeff Okudah. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And welcome everybody to a video. Glad you guys are here. And we got a lot of takeaways from today's training camp for the Lions. We are coming into really the tail end of training camp for the Lions. This went by pretty fast. Tomorrow was the final day this week. Thursday's not open to the public. Friday is our preseason opener, which is hype. Of course, we'll be live on Friday, so make sure you stop in here. Check us out. We'll be watching the game, reacting to it live, and working on a new setup for this season, so it should be pretty darn awesome. And also, Rad should stop in during that show as well. So make sure you're in there. Check us out, and we'll talk about the game as we see it live. And then next week, only 2 days of training camp, and it's a wrap. And then we're talking about the rest of the preseason, and then we're talking about how we can beat the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, we're getting really close to this thing kicking off for the Lions. It's right around the corner as training camp starts to wind down. But today we have more takeaways. Some things that we've seen continue to be kind of just like pounded in. You're like, okay, we know what we're going to get from this guy, and he continues to show it every single day in practice. All right, and there's a couple guys like that we're going to get into. And then there's some new headlines. But I think one of the biggest headlines has to come at that kicker position. I want to start there first because the Lions have added more competition to the kicker spot today after releasing kicker Matthew Wright. So not long after training camp today, the Lions released kicker Matthew Wright. So I did get to see him today, wishing him the best of luck. Hopefully he finds a spot somewhere else. And again, as always, maybe he'll end up back with us at some point. But I will say this, Matthew Wright has struggled a little bit through training camp, I guess in comparison to a guy like Randy Bullock. He's just been kind of inconsistent. I mean, even today, I know he hit the uprights twice on the left side. He hooked one left. He just had inconsistencies. We saw it in the Family Fest. He was over 2 on those long kicks, but so was Reggie Bullock. But Bullock has been more efficient really inside the 40. You kind of know what you're going to get from kick to kick. That hasn't really been the case for Matthew Wright. He's shown flashes of that big leg. Don't really know what you're getting consistently from Matthew Wright. And I think that's the name of the game as a kicker. Even if you can't kick it the longest, if I can consistently get 40 yards or less out of you, and I know that you're going to knock that in, 90% of the time. The long side of it is just another element that some kickers have and some kickers don't. And I think so far, Randy Bullock has shown us that he's been pretty darn efficient inside about 40 yards. But once you get past 40 yards, there's been some question marks, no question about it. Now, today I thought he went 2 for 2 with a 47 and 49-yard kick. I thought he did, but apparently he missed one. Oops, my bad. I'm terrible at judging kicks, okay? There's no referees out there. I'm bad at it. I was bad at the Family Fest. I thought he made one, and it was like I'm sitting right across. Turned out he missed. I'm just terrible at it, okay? I'm bad. He did look much better than Matthew Wright did. So, unfortunately, Matthew Wright has been released. But the Lions decide they want to add some competition. And look, Dan Campbell has spoke on Randy Bullock recently saying that, look, Randy Bullock, this was after Saturday when he missed the 2 deep kicks at the Family Fest. He said, I'm not worried about him because he's kicked well for us, basically through training camp. But even Randy will tell you he needs to kick better than that. And that's kind of been the case. He's shown us that he's kicked pretty darn well, aside from really Saturday. But once you get past 40 yards, you don't really know what you're going to consistently get there. But you want to have some confidence there. And right now, personally, I don't think I would have tons of confidence in Randy Bullock from 50-plus yards. So that's where the Lions went out and added some competition today. Kicker Zane Gonzalez from the Arizona Cardinals, the 26-year-old. You probably all know that name to add some competition. I think that makes sense. If you're going to release a guy like Matthew Wright, you got to bring someone in for competition. And this is just another guy that Randy Bullock is going to have to beat out. And look, Zane Gonzalez has, he's had his up and downs as well. That's why he is a free agent. Last season, he was 16 for 22, which isn't fantastic. But the year before, he was much better at 31 for 35 with the Arizona Cardinals. But specifically last season, he was 8 of 13 on 40 to 49-yard kick. Into week 1, this is a good time to do it, throughout preseason to have someone to go at it with him. He's a 78% career field goal kicker, which is a little bit under Randy Bullock, who's like around 83%. But he's been a little bit like this throughout his entire career. Stats comparing Randy Bullock to Zane Gonzalez. And at the top, it's career stats, but Randy Bullock has been in the league much longer than Zane Gonzalez. So at the bottom, I wanted to look at their last 4-year stats. At 40-plus yard field goal attempts, you can see that Randy Bullock over the last 4 years, 27 of 31. from 40 to 49 yards. That's very impressive compared to Zane, who was only 19 of 31. So very impressive there. I mean, that's 8 more made kicks on the same amount of attempts from 40 to 49 yards. That's a huge difference and a huge improvement for Randy Bullock there for sure. But when you look at the 50-plus yard kicks, that's where things start to really come together, because you can see Randy Bullock is only 7 of 14. Zane Gonzalez is 8 of 13, so a little bit better percentage there. 1 less attempt, 1 more make. And then you also notice at the bottom, DeLong from last season, 56 and 55. But notice, Zane Gonzalez in his senior year at college went 7 for 9 from 50-plus yard field goals. So I think that's where the Lions really want to evaluate, because they want to know that they can get to the 40 or 35 to 40-yard line and potentially have a shot. And right now, Randy Bullock hasn't proven that. Now, let's talk about the attendance from today. So, yes, a lot of names, unfortunately, on this injury report. Keep in mind, the Lions are playing this very cautionary. They're not putting anybody out there that's really dealing with something. So they're making sure their guys are healthy. They want to be very careful about it. These roster level players, they're probably going to be playing through some things to make sure that they have a chance to show what they can do on the field. So there's a lot of names we're going to talk about here, but just keep in mind the Lions are playing very cautionary with this. One of the biggest updates has to come with Jermar Jefferson first, though. Yesterday, he apparently hurt his ankle. It was rolled on in a special teams drill. He limped off. He tried to go back out, but he limped off, which is not good. And today, we did not see Jermar Jefferson on the practice field. Now, Dan Campbell, since then, has said that he doesn't think it's too serious with Jermar Jefferson. He said it a low sprain, not a high ankle sprain, which is good. So he doesn't think it's too serious. He said, look, he's going to be out of practice today, but it shouldn't be too serious. So that's very positive in terms of Jermar Jefferson's health, a guy that I really want to see this season. So we're going to keep an eye on Jermar and see how fast he can get back out to the Lions. Wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play Friday, which stinks because I was so excited to see him Friday. Michael Warren, also for undisclosed reasons, was not in attendance for the Lions today. Terrell Crosby dealing with the grade 1 hamstring. Levi, undisclosed reasons. Defensive line continues to be kind of depleted, specifically on the interior, and that's why we signed, the multiple defensive linemen like we have, the Michael Barnett's, the Miles Browns, the P.J. Johnson, who was throwing autographed balls today. That's why we signed the depth that we have, because we are missing some guys like a John Pennicini for undisclosed reasons. Dunbar continues to be out with a personal issue. Dan Campbell did update us saying that they've been in communications with him. They know where he's at all times. They know what's going on there. But you still want to see him get back on the field pretty darn soon. Corn Elder, who was injured on Friday, this is something that we all know about. The Lions recently went out and signed Nickel Roby-Coleman yesterday, who, yes, we did see at practice today. Roby-Coleman did not go through team drills because he's still very new to it. He was catching passes after practice. So he was on the field, and we know Corn Elder is out. Quintez Cephas was not participating today with the head injury. Just a little bump that Quintez Cephas took, but taking it cautionary. Damian Ratley was not participating today for undisclosed reasons. I did see Ratley at the beginning of practice without pads on, running around off to the side. And DeAndre Swift did not go through team drills or positional drills. He was dressed. He was in pads, which made me a little optimistic heading into it. But yeah, we didn't see him go through drills today. So it was a big Jamal Williams day with no Jermar, no Michael Warren, and no DeAndre Swift. Very big day for Jamal Williams. Brashad Perriman was in pads. This is someone that did not participate on Saturday. He did not go through the drills with Lions, but he was in pads. And also Tommy Kramer did not go through team drills with the Lions today. So still a lot of familiar names. Good thing is a lot of these guys are getting back pads, going through stretches, going through warm-ups. Just a lot of them haven't really gotten to the drills yet. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the week. Now, today there was apparently a couple of dings, bumps, and bruises. Specifically, the first one, probably the biggest one, has to be TJ Hockenson. Hockenson and Jeff Okudah kind of hit each other today. And apparently Jeff Okudah, took a couple plays off. So did TJ Hockenson. Okudah got back out there. TJ Hockenson remained on the sideline for the rest of 11-on-11s. And I didn't realize that at first because I was taking my notes. I saw Hockenson run the motion a couple snaps on 11-on-11. And then at the end of practice, I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even see Hockenson make plays today. Where was Hawk? Well, that's what happened to TJ Hockenson. Again, it doesn't seem to be anything serious here. He seems to be all right. He didn't leave or anything like that, but he just stayed off the sideline for the rest of the day, and it gave other tight ends a chance to participate a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that. You know what you're going to get out of Hawk, so no reason to force him out there. You don't even have to play him on Friday if you don't want to. I'm perfectly fine with that. Defensive lineman Deshaun Hand apparently dealt with a little injury today. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it was reported that he dealt with a little injury, which is just awful news, considering that yesterday he was talking about how he just wants to be healthy. So this is just terrible news. Again, hopefully it's nothing serious here. And so did Kevin Strong. He actually limped off today, which is not good. Chad Hansen was apparently a little in and out today. Now, Michael Brockers was in pads today, so I think that's a good note for about a whole week. And again, he wasn't dealing with an injury. They said he's fine, but he was in pads today, so I thought I would at least bring that up. Some of the guys that we're seeing coming back, Jalen Reese-Maben, full participation today through walkthroughs. He was playing the Mike linebacker, and Jelani Tobias was playing the Will linebacker with the second team, so I thought I would just point that out where he was lining up. Earl Williams is starting to get back to it a little bit. He had pads on. We didn't see him on Saturday. I don't remember seeing him on one-on-one drills with defensive backs, or even for that matter, much team drills, but I do know that Tyrell Williams is getting back. He's got the pads on, things like that, so that's good news. Alex Brown coming back, full participation today. Derek Barnes, Derek Barnes is working his way back, so that's good news as well. So there is some good news. Even though there's a lot of bad news, there's some good news. So let's celebrate the good times. Let's celebrate the good news. And hopefully these guys get back and healthy. We want to see as many of them as we can on Friday. Did not get to see training camp yesterday because it was rained out, which forced them inside. So we don't really have a lot of takeaways from yesterday. I do have a couple notes that we'll go through. We had a couple yesterday. But specifically, Dan Campbell talked about how they were going to work on 4-down sets. They were going to work on kind of RPOs, basically read options for quarterbacks to get prepared for the Buffalo Bills. And I noticed specifically, and this could be a little bit of both, because I could see the Lions implement some of this season. We saw Justin Herbert do it a little bit with the LA Chargers. A little bit of mobility there with Jared Goff. It's nothing crazy, but there's some mobility. I've went back to watch some of his old film. You can see him, trying to run out there and block. And plus, we play with him on Madden. He's got a little mobility, but they were doing some RPO drills early in practice. The quarterbacks were faking the handoff to throw in a quick little screen. So that's something we could definitely see this season. It's something I think that's in the Lions playbook on Madden. So it's definitely something that we could see this season. Do this drill very long, but the offensive linemen were working a little bit on some screens, specifically to the running back and blocking upfield. Probably just understanding that a little bit. I haven't seen this drill before, so it's something that I did want to take note of. Also, I saw Penei Sewell line up on the left side of the offensive line. I didn't see this in 11-on-11s, but I did see it when they were doing some of their early walkthroughs with the offensive linemen. And I think also, if I remember correctly, I think Darren Fells was lined up at kind of like the right tackle spot. Keep an eye out for interesting things like this, because we have seen in the past Anthony Lynn throw out 6 offensive linemen on the field or go heavy on one side of the offensive line. The unique little tweaks he puts out there sometimes just to get the run game going a little bit. It's just something to kind of throw off a defense, to, mess up how defenses are set up, because it does mess up your packages when you have instead of a tight end on one side, you have another offensive tackle. That throws things off completely. So just keep an eye out for that. Penei Sewell, of course, he's familiar with playing on the left side. So if the Lions do anything wild like that, and again, there was no Terrell Crosby, just keep an eye out that it's very possible that it happens. We've talked about this in the past, but Anthony Lynn has done that a few times. I thought I would take note of it. Didn't see it in 11-on-11s, but it is something that I did notice when they were doing their walkthroughs. We got to see one-on-ones once again today, and the linebackers were working on some drills with, running backs and tight ends, things like that. I didn't get a great view of this. It looked like they were doing it off of pads. Linebackers trying to play physical here, but I did get a really good view of the receivers versus the defensive backs. Our quarterbacks get to throw in these drills, so you get to see them throw the ball a little bit. And in these drills, I got to say as a whole, the receivers pretty much dominated today. The receivers pretty much showing today. There really wasn't a lot of highlights defensively. I'm gonna be honest here. The guy that actually stuck out defensively, believe it or not, in these one-on-ones, it was Will Harris, who allowed 1 completion on 3 attempts, and he also had the first pass breakup of the drill. That was on an underneath route. Will Harris actually made some plays in coverage, specifically one where he lined up in press coverage. Our safeties in these drills give a lot of cushion. Tracy Walker had a solid rep, a lot of completion. Dean Marlowe gave some cushion. The only guy that beat him was the first one they threw at him, and that was against Monroe St. Brown, who hit him on a post move. Now, this route he gave some cushion on, and St. Brown, just as shifty as he is, what I noticed is that he can really lull defenders one way and break the other. He kind of like changes his body to make it look like he's leaning towards one side or the other. He'll kind of lean like this, and then he'll hit you back. And it sells like crazy for these defensive backs. It's pretty to watch. Will Harris came back. He had the first pass breakup. He had an incomplete pass that was a shot on him deep, and we saw him let out a little exhale. He yelled a little bit because he probably was the strongest defensive back throughout this drill throughout the day. Otherwise, they struggled. The receivers did a heck of a job throughout this drill. Now, Jared Goff came out, and today, like I said, he was a little more aggressive, and I don't like to look at these drills and say he's aggressive because of this, because it's just one-on-one. They're running a route, and then he throws it. It's not like he's not going to throw the football, right? But he did throw a pretty nice pass, and he had a couple of these. He actually had one on 7-on-7s as well, which fell incomplete, where he threw it behind the safety, okay? So they had the safety slide over from the split coverage look, got by the cornerback, and he put it in the hands. I believe it was Chad Hansen, but Hansen was unable to come up with it. But it was a beautiful throw behind the safety. He tested that coverage, and when they fell asleep a little bit at the wheel, he took the shot deep. So it was kind of cool to see some of that aggressiveness. In contrast to a guy like Tim Boyle, who today seemed very forced underneath, not only because of good secondary play, but also because there was some pressure, which forced him to throw a lot of things underneath. But even in 7-on-7s, really didn't take many shots. A lot of things were underneath for Tim Boyle. Now, they still do like a time limit and then they got to roll out, but he was very much forced underneath. Goff actually takes more shots, and it looks like right now that Boyle has pretty much won the backup role. We'll see, but as of now, that's kind of what it looks like it's at. However, there's still a lot of offseason to go. But we saw a nice deep pass dropped in the bucket to Tom Kennedy along the left sideline through these one-on-one drills. That was a really nice pass. Actually, I would say the receivers to the quarterbacks, the connection was very crisp throughout this entire drill. Very good throws, really good catches. Route running was really nice. And when it started off being the defensive backs were usually playing extremely well through these drills, the receivers today definitely had the advantage, and it really wasn't that close. You can almost feel some more of that chemistry coming together. The quarterbacks were doing a drill where they were throwing into nets, working on their footwork. They've worked on footwork pretty much every day, but they were throwing into nets today. That was something new. I haven't seen them do that. Nothing deep, but they were, footwork, and then they throw it to the net. See Darius Jennings make a play today. I didn't know who this was because I didn't know what his number was going to be, but I put down his number. It was Darius Jennings who shook Bobby Price on a route. I thought that was pretty nice. Now, Bobby Price has been getting an interesting role on the walkthroughs. They're lining up Bobby Price kind of as a cornerback against certain matchups. So I think they're seeing some versatility within Bobby Price to play more than just that safety position. They're seeing versatility there, but outside corner on certain walkthroughs. So I thought that was interesting. He had a one-on-one against Darius Jennings, and Jennings shook him today. And I thought that was a big deal for Jennings because, like we said, sometimes these new guys don't really flash. Jennings had at least one play that flashed me, and I didn't even know who he was, so I just wrote down the number. Khalif Raymond is ridiculous, though. I know we say it all the time, but my goodness,
such a way with words.
And he is just so fluid. I know he's not very big, which makes it even more difficult to stick with him. And his, catch radius is a little bit smaller. But my goodness, is he's tough to stick with. No one can stick with this guy. And that continued today. He toasted Jeff Okudah. Like, Okudah, it wasn't even close. I'm going to be honest, it was not close. 2 of the 3 passes thrown his way, and the one that he didn't catch came against Amani. Now, some people have looked at this as a plus for Amani, but personally, from the view I had on it, I thought that Amani was completely lost, and he accidentally was in position to sort of make a play, even though he didn't really make a play on the ball. It wasn't like Oruwariye was watching this play develop because he was in a trail position. So was Jeff Okudah because of his quick release. He just gets off the release so quick, gets off the line with a shifty move. You almost really just got to play physical, I feel like, with him and try to throw him off his route that way. You can see how that would work if you had safety up over top, but in one-on-one, you don't have that luxury, okay? It's you versus him. So if you get unpressed and he gets by you, he's probably gone. So I think that's why people aren't doing that to him. So I think that's what the Lions went after this offseason, though. They went after guys that could do that could draw that safety up, could stretch the field. They have multiple players that can do it, and Raymond is just another one of those guys. And it's a wrap, because guys haven't shown the ability to get back in front of him, where it was almost too many breaks, because when he broke back outside, Amani was still there, and he ran into it. But Amani didn't turn around and make a play on the football. I mean, maybe there's a chance that Oruwariye, he kind of felt like he was going to break back outside, and he sat on that. There's a chance. There is that chance. So maybe he did kind of run that route for him, and maybe it was just a heck of a play. You could give it to either way. Either way would look at it. From my view, it looked like he was burnt, and he ended up running right back into him. A bit different in a scrimmage, but he's even played well in 11-on-11s, and we're going to give him some more credit today. He's been big time for the Lions as a very emerging weapon that's getting first-team reps consistently. He's been doing some big things, but in one-on-ones, it's just a no-go. Raymond can line up both in the slot and the outside. So if you get one-on-ones, he could be a problem. And we've seen that occasionally with the Titans in the past when he got one-on-one opportunities. He could be a problem and get a lot of space very quickly. I didn't get a great view of the physical drill that they brought back out. The bop drill. You know what I'm talking about, like the 10 yards and the angles, the offense player, defense player. But I did see Khalif Raymond absolutely shake somebody. But it did seem like a majority of the time the offense still held the advantage in this drill as it's been over the past. But Khalif absolutely broke someone in this drill. Just shifty overall as a player. Hopefully he turns into some kind of hopefully Khalif Raymond turns into a lesser-known Brandon Cooks. I mean, wouldn't that be something? He breaks out with this opportunity and becomes that. Through training camp, you would think this guy's been a stud. He just hasn't had the opportunities. I'm excited to see what happens when he does get the opportunities, because he's going to here. Chad Hansen did have a pretty nice grab in this drill. He had a nice one-handed grab. And like I said, the receivers and quarterbacks just looked very crisp today. The quarterbacks were throwing some really nice passes, and the receivers were making some tough grabs. There were some very tough contested grabs where the coverage looked solid. And I would say earlier, I would have bet some of these passes would have fell incomplete. where they were in really good position. Jeff had one like this. Jerry Jacobs had one like this, where they were in solid position where definitely could have fell incomplete, but the receivers find a way to come up with the football in tight coverage, and the quarterbacks laid a really good pass. Now, Sage Surratt also made some plays again today. He beat Dean Marlowe and Michael Ford on an out route today, so he beat the safety and he came back and beat the nickel cornerback. Again, he ain't that fast, but he does find a way to get separation in those intermediate routes, and we saw that against Michael Ford. St. Brown continued to be dominant. I don't even feel like I need to bring this up. He was 3 for 3 again today. Like I said, he was the only guy that beat Will Harris. Drummel Allison had a grab on Imani today. The guy that stood out today in these one-on-ones defensively probably was A.J. Parker. He was able to get in some pretty good positions today in these one-on-one drills. A.J. Parker in a 7-on-7 drill had a dropped interception where he jumped an out route, I believe it was. He's had a couple of chances like this. He hasn't really come up with that play so I can headline it. A.J. Parker gets an interception, but it was close. It was a dropped interception. It was close. So there's the battle heating up there between him and Jerry Jacobs, because Jacobs hasn't shown us that inside versatility. A.J. can play a little bit of both. All right, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now that Nico Roby-Coleman is here, he has to continue to separate himself to find a way to make the roster. Offensive line went at it with the defensive line once again today. They got those one-on-one reps, and I love this drill. I wish it was in a better spot for a viewing angle, but I do like watching this drill. It's awesome. And a couple guys that stuck out specifically in this drill. Specifically, let's just talk about the outside linebacker position. I felt like you really felt their presence today in 11-on-11s. 1-minute drill, these drills, you felt the presence of the outside linebacker's ability to get after the quarterback. Multiple guys, not just one guy, not just Romeo, who's played really well, not just Trey, who's really come on recently, but other guys as well. And that's starting to just show. Trey Flowers was able to get after the quarterback. We've seen Romeo, what he's been able to do. We'll probably talk about him a little bit more later. But a couple guys that stood out, Robert McCray. He beat Logan Stenberg in the inside today, which is pretty cool. You know, Robert McCray's an outside linebacker, so his ability to go inside and do that was impressive. He got really low and he beat him to the inside. So you saw some bend, you saw some versatility there from Robert McCray, so that was awesome. Charles Harris, who beat Matt Nelson off of the edge today, the offensive tackle. Charles Harris made a play, and it was nice to see that because he's been running with the first team, so you want to see some of that pay off when they're going these one-on-one drills. The offensive linemen that stuck out, Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, those guys continue to hold their own. Decker looked really good every rep he was going. Frank Ragnow has been doing his thing. Lee McNeil, his get off, man, is impressive. Like, that's what I was looking at today. His get off was really nice. Right off the snap, he's off really quickly, and it causes his offensive lineman to back up very fast. And it gets them a lot of push on the quarterback because they're backpedaling super quick. Not seeing Levi Stunk, you're missing a lot of defensive linemen in this drill. So it was about the edge guys, the outside linebackers. But Lee McNeil showed you that impressive get off. Julian Okwara, another guy that stuck out to me. He showed some quickness throughout this drill. Austin Bryant was kind of just dominant all over today. Not only in this drill where he beat Penei Sewell, which caused Penei Sewell to basically have to hold him, but also in 11-on-11s where he got after the quarterback a little bit as well. And when we get into some 11-on-11 talk, you'll hear outside linebackers' names come up because they were getting after it a little bit today. So I got to give them credit. I think they kind of stole the show defensively today. Do have a lot of talent there. Only just with Trey and Romeo, but your third-round pick in Julian, former first-round pick in Charles Harris, a guy in Robert McCray who's been stepping up big time. We have some talent there. Austin Bryant, a former fourth-round pick who is healthy, which is great. Leads us to some of this 11-on-11 talk. And I just took away some of my biggest notes because, again, it wasn't the best angle to see, but some of my biggest notes from this 11-on-11. As I mentioned, Jared Goff, he started to take a little bit more shots. Okay, Jared Goff is showing some more aggressiveness, and we saw it in the red zone drills, really without some of the top receivers being in there that much. So it's nice to see him push the ball down the field, and we missed Hogg today for a lot of the 11-on-11s as well. So he had to go to different guys, and he showed that he would push downfield. Apparently yesterday, he had a 60-yard bomb to Tyrell Williams, which we missed, which is great news for Tyrell. So I'm pretty sure, I'm sure they're probably limiting him a little bit to make sure, they're giving him the rest that he needs. But a 60-yard bomb to Tyrell, that's awesome. I wish I would have seen that. I really do. A couple notes offensively, Khalif Raymond. He made plays one-on-one. Then he had about a 35-yard pass from Jared Goff off of a play action. A pretty deep route concept. They had multiple guys running deep on this. But Khalif Raymond came open. And I really wasn't expecting Jared Goff to throw it that far. I saw the ball and I was like, oh, snap. He actually threw that deep. And it was pretty early in the drill. And, he connected with Khalif Raymond. So that was an awesome note. First hit Victor Bolden on either a reverse or a jet sweep. I think it was a reverse, but it could have been just a jet sweep. Either way, he broke it for about 20 yards. And we've seen Victor Bolden get involved a little bit like that behind the line of scrimmage. And it's usually going to Victor Bolden. So they clearly like that ability of Bolden. And today we saw that again. He was able to break it for a pretty nice gain. Then we saw a touch pass from Jared Goff to a tight end racing across the front of the quarterback. As you guys know, quarterback kind of just touches it, pushes it across. Didn't go for a huge gain, but it was definitely different. A thing I have not taken know of before. Godwin and Igwebike were the two guys that stuck out to me. You know, Jamal made some plays. He had one that he broke to the edge, which I wasn't really expecting from Jamal, so it was kind of cool to see that. He came back later and scored on a red zone carry, which he celebrated a little bit in the end zone. You know, he had to. But Godwin, you know, we heard he had 2 fumbles yesterday. Like I said, there's just like little things within his game where he kind of needs to clean it up to become a running back full-time. And it's things like that, fumbles, things like that. However, you did see some of that speed today, specifically out of the shotgun, his ability to just get upfield fast. I mean, he's a very fast running back. I like how Anthony Lynn is using him to his strengths. You know, you see a guy like Dedrick Mills get a lot of his carries between the tackles. You know, occasionally, like him and Jamal will break it to the outside. Occasionally, they'll get those touches. You know, maybe Jamal will get a toss to the outside. But Godwin, he'll get a couple inside carries, but they'll also get him out there in the shotgun, give him an RPO handoff from Jared Goff, and you'll see him cut back left. I mean, you get to see them use his speed. Halfback handoff and a flip toss out there from Jared Goff to the edge so he could get upfield. And I think he actually scored against the pylon there. I think he got up to the pylon in the red zone drill. So it's cool to see that they're using him to what he does well. You know, they're running plays to what he does well. They're not just keeping it the same for every running back. Jamar gets different carries. He gets a lot of zone carries. Offensively, we're running a lot of motions today. And I think this is something that we're going to see a lot during the season as well, as it kind of helps, you know, try to determine what the defense is in for Jared Goff. It's one of his pre-snap reads. They did it with the LA Rams as well. So I think it's something that we'll see. I had a fake end around today. We had TJ Hawkinson going in motion a ton before, you know, he kind of came out on 11-11. So we saw it really kick off, I think, in the red zone drill, where he had a couple of passes where, you know, maybe they weren't the best passes, but he took shots, and I wasn't really expecting it, okay? They both fell incomplete. The second one was a good decision. The first one was kind of weird. It looked like a run-pass option that he kind of just chucked to the left corner of the end zone. I don't really know what it was. This was a red zone situation. It fell incomplete. He kind of threw a jump ball basically to Tom Kennedy, which was knocked away by Amani. I don't know why he threw that. It looked kind of weird from my point of view. But regardless, it showed aggressiveness. He trusted him, and he put it up there in the end zone. So at least there's a trust factor. And it wasn't like it was picked. It was just incomplete. And then he came back and took a shot to the end zone. I think it was to Alize Mack, which fell incomplete. It was a little bit high for him. It hit off his fingertips. But he did get behind the defense in the end zone. Again, another shot there in the red zone. It was nice to see him take it. You don't expect it. Usually when they come in these drills, they need 20 yards to score. You're expecting 5 yards and someone running after the catch. But no, I mean, he took a couple shots to the end zone. Neither of those were completed, but it was a difference. You felt a little different watching. You're like, oh, snap, he's pushing the ball a little bit. Okay, I wasn't ready for this. Let me readjust my seat so I can see what's going on. Get into those 1-minute drills. And really, the 1-minute drills were interesting because I didn't know what was going on. Apparently, there was 1 minute, 1 second on the clock, no timeouts, down by 2 from your own 25. So they were kind of trying to get in field goal range. The first unit definitely did better than the second unit, which basically did nothing because the defense got after him. We saw through the 11-11s and these drills specifically is, you know, they didn't go 11-on-11s as much, but what we saw is that the pressure was getting there a little bit, specifically from the outside and edge position. All right, so give those guys credit. And the Lions were throwing in some blitzes, safety blitzes. You know, Lions have continued to do that. Elijah Holder made a play with the second unit. We'll get into that. But with the first group in this drill, with 101, it started off with a pass, short middle, I think it was short left middle, which was tipped up in the air by Jayshon Cornell in the defensive line. That pass fell incomplete. Shout out to Jayshon Cornell. And this must have been very limited work from Tyrell because I don't remember seeing him, and I did not see Perryman out there. So he was kind of without his top 2, you know, big weapons, and there was no Hawk. So he was missing some threats that he's like to go through. So he definitely had to mix it up. And we saw, like I said, the shot to Kennedy, the Alize Mack. He was mixing it up for sure, and because he had to get it involved to different players, he's missing some of his top weapons. So give a little bit of Goff a little bit of a pass, maybe because, you know, he's missing some of his top guys for some of these drills, and we saw that. But also take some pressure off of that secondary a little bit as well, because you're missing some of those deep ball, go up and get it, you know, type of guys that can just simply take the top off. You're missing some of that, you know, and we've seen, like, Goff made the effort to Tom Kennedy, but there wasn't much of a shot there. You know, it was just tight coverage, and it wasn't like he could go up on top of Amani and take it out of the air. So you were kind of missing that towards the end of these drills. Short little play to Jamal Williams, and then they hit Darren Fells on a nice out route. This was a third down. They hit Darren Fells on an out route, but at that point, they only had 22 seconds left because they had the underneath play to Jamal Williams. Then they hit the out route, which gave him a first down, but they only had 22 seconds left at that point. That's when Jared Goff hit his deepest pass of the drive, pretty deep middle to Khalif Raymond, but again, there was no timeouts. So they ran up there, they spiked it from midfield, and I'm not sure why they did what they did. This was not a very well, you know, done play. 9 seconds is enough time if you can hit something quick to get out and spike it, or at least attack the out of bounds. Something seemed off, miscommunication, something went wrong here, because it looked like a Hail Mary attempt, but Goff threw it to nobody. It was weird. Maybe it was just a throwaway from Jared Goff. I don't know what it is, and I guess you would throw it away in that situation if there's nothing there. Maybe they were looking for something kind of quick and they just didn't get it, so he threw it away because the defense, I don't know. And he threw it away to give himself a Hail Mary shot, but they just decided to take the field goal. The Lions went less 11 on 11 today. I think this drill did show Jared Goff's ability to, I don't need the top receivers. I just need that run game. And I think we saw it today. When you're not having much Tyrell, not much Brashad, really no TJ Hockenson, you're very limited in terms of the guys that you're throwing the football to. And he was still able to find some success. I mean, one thing that did set back this drill was that they also had a false start. So that set him back a little as well. I don't know who had the false start on the offensive line, but someone did, and that set him back a little bit. Second unit's drive was pretty much just a disaster. I mean, they didn't really go forward at all. They just kind of went backwards. Same situation, minute 1 second, but it was a 4 and out just like that. And that's because they got after the quarterback quick. I mean, Boyle was under duress fast. Start off with Julian Okwara, getting some pressure off the outside. And again, give credit to Romeo because he's done this all camp. I mean, seriously, we just haven't talked about him, but he's done it all camp. And Trey Flowers is coming on, getting some pressure. We're seeing the impacts of how much these guys can get after. And we're missing our top interior defense line, which makes this even more exciting. But Julian Okwara hit a nice spin move on Darren Paulo, which is just beautiful. He got after the quarterback. Like I said, Austin Bryant could have been marked for 3 sacks today because you can't sack the quarterback, but they do blow the play dead. He could have been marked for 3 today, through 11 on 11s and this drill. Second down play was an incomplete pass where Tim Boyle had to step up. He kind of just flicked it sideways. It was not pretty. It was incomplete, but that's because pressure forced him to step up and just kind of fling it. On a 3rd and 16, Austin Bryant came in, got some pressure as well. Like I said, he could have had 3 sacks today. He got after it, and you could just see it because, I couldn't even tell who it was at first, but he exploded through the line, and they blow the play dead, and I just see Austin Bryant jogging back. I'm like, oh, snap. Okay, from the left side of the defensive line, I see you. On 4th and 16, he brought Elijah Holder on a blitz from the safety position. He got in pretty clean, and it forced an incomplete pass right away. He had no time to even look down the field, and that was it. That was their drive. The second unit, the pressure was just getting after it. So I give credit to guys like Romeo, Trey, but also the other guys, McCray. Those guys for stepping up. Julian and Charles Harris. You got to give some love. Austin Bryant. Dude, they're getting after it. And if this is a sign of something to come, if they can keep building on from this day, like if I see this again tomorrow and then keep building on, this is going to be very, very promising considering what Ty Walsh has done in the past. He may be putting these guys in position to be their best, and we may be seeing it. We actually may be seeing it. Like a guy like Charles Harris, they said, we believe he's a pure outside linebacker. He's played defensive end. This might be getting the best out of him because it allows him to be more free, gives him a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and we're seeing that. Now just imagine this defensive line healthy with Levi, with Michael Brockers. I mean, Brockers ain't hurt, but you know what I'm saying? Just imagine that. Deshaun Hand. Hopefully he's okay. St. Brown did get into it a little bit with Jeff Okudah today. It wasn't like a fist fight or anything like that, but apparently got to sort of a shoving match with Jeff Okudah. St. Brown did in a blocking drill and a special teams drill, and it had to be broken up by teammates. I was wondering why there was a little huddle. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, they had to break it up because they were shoving each other a little bit. Again, it doesn't seem to be anything that got escalated too far, but it just shows that competitive nature. This is the second time it's happened with St. Brown. You want to make sure that things aren't going too far. As Dan Campbell said, I don't like the fights, but at the same time, you do want to see the competitiveness as long as it's not going too far. You don't want guys getting hurt. You don't want toxic relationships. It just seems like 2 guys competing, and that's what it was today to a very high level. And St. Brown is going to bring it every snap. So that's kind of just what you're getting out of St. Brown. But St. Brown continues to be, like a lot of our players, staying after practice, running, staying after practice. A lot of guys are out there after practice. But he waited for Khalif Raymond to get done with this presser. That way they could catch some passes after practice. So those are my takeaways from today's training camp. My main takeaways, what really popped out to me. And we may be live tonight as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. There's a chance we could go live tonight. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.